Hello and welcome to the HarperCollins Children's Books Fall 2025 Librarian Preview. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Link to today's slide presentation and title list were included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located there. You can also download the slides and title list by copying the URLs on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble, please contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a section for Q&A. If you have any questions or need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions and will pass all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Booklist offers closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the captions icon on the toolbar mentioned earlier. From there, you can select show or hide captions from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting subtitle settings. And finally, Booklist expects all participants to maintain an atmosphere of respect and fairness. Anyone who violates this standard of behavior, including engaging in any form of harassment, may, at the discretion of the organizers, be immediately removed. We have a wonderful program for you today, so without further ado, I'll pass things off to Mimi Rankin and the Harper Stacks team. Take it away, Mimi.
Thanks, Taylor. Everyone, welcome to our HarperCollins Children's Books Fall 2025 Librarian Preview. My name is Mimi Rankin. I'm the Associate Director of School and Library Marketing here at HarperCollins Children's Books. Thank you so much to Booklist for hosting us and connecting us with so many wonderful librarians and educators across the country. Just a few notes before we start. We've sent a spreadsheet of our presented titles around before the webinar. Please feel free to use that to take notes about the books you hear about today. You can also request to download these titles as e-galleys on both NetGalley and Edelweiss, and the full picture book PDFs are only on Edelweiss, but you can immediately access them by clicking links on each entry. We hope to see many of you at ALA Annual in a few weeks, so please be sure to swing by our booth and learn more about what we're excited about in 2025. Now on to the authors. Brian Leese is the New York Times bestselling creator of Bats at the Beach, Bats at the Library, and the Caldecott Honor book, The Rough Patch. He has written and or illustrated dozens of other acclaimed books for children as well. In his newest venture, Catnap, readers will follow Kitten through various art pieces in a breathtaking exploration of art history that is perfect for story time. Showcasing famous artwork exhibited in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Kitten's journey becomes a perfect introduction to art history and an interactive and fun invitation to visit an art museum in your own hometown. Brian, you've truly outdone yourself in this perfect new book, and we can't wait to hear more about it. Please help me welcome Brian Leese.
So thank you so much for having me here today, and everybody who's joining in with us. Thank you for joining us. I'm delighted to be on stage, digital stage today with Tiffany and Karina, and I'm going to share Catnap, my new book, and then talk a little bit, just briefly, about some of the illustrations that I did for it. So this is kind of an interesting thing because I have never presented this book before today. This is the first time that I've read it to anybody basically outside of the family. And before I read it, you know, when I'm visiting schools, kids always ask, well, where'd you come up with the idea for that story? This story was actually inspired by one of our two cats. His shelter name is Dylan. In the book, he becomes Kitten. And what happened when he was a kitten, one day he completely disappeared. We believe in indoor cats to keep them safe from wildlife and wildlife safe from them. And he wasn't in the house. We couldn't find him anywhere. So we searched from the attic to the basement, even in the dishwasher and the dryer to make sure he hadn't gotten closed in there. And about 3 hours after he disappeared, he showed up, just sauntered into the room as if nothing had happened, except his whiskers were completely encased in cobwebs. And our thought was, where have you been? Now, we figured that he had probably found a wormhole in time or space. And at the time, we kind of thought that maybe he'd gone to ancient Egypt, which of course reveres revered cats. But that developed over a number of years. So it's been about a decade in the work to this story that I'm about to read to you called Catnap. And the Catnap is a sort of in some ways, a standard home adventure, home sort of a story. We're following Kitten as he chases a mouse, except Kitten is chasing a mouse into pieces of art at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. And a bunch of people have done books where characters interact with art before, except I'm not sure that anybody has ever actually attempted to create those pieces of art in the original media, which to me was the really exciting thing. Like, can I actually make near forgeries of these 3D pieces of art? So also kind of like Dorothy going into Oz, when Kitten leaps into the wall poster, from that point on, you're going to be seeing things that are actually all entirely handmade, from the objects to the frames themselves. So here, for the first time of me ever reading it out loud, Catnap. Start off with a little vignette of a girl looking at her watch. She's reading a book on world art. And there we've got Kitten sleeping in a lot of different sorts of postures. Makes me really wish I was hinged like a cat. And the story begins here. Late light lies, warm over sofa, kitten, book. Shadows slip across walls. Something scritches, waking kitten. A mouse? A mouse! There's kittens following the mouse, looking as the mouse disappears into the frame. Does Kitten follow? Of course he does. It's dusty here. And where is the mouse? There! Kitten slips down. He's getting close. Some rats notice Kitten. They scatter, trip, and tumble. The mouse leaps. Does Kitten follow? Of course he does. Now we're going from Egypt to an illuminated manuscript. A tower trembles as he lands. Begone, cries the king. Meow! Kitten is catching up. Then on the right-hand page, we've got one of the characters in the margin of the book saying, halt, stranger. It's so fluffy. My, what big ears you have. Let me play you sweet music. Kitten's doesn't think he wants to stay. Kitten sees a dog. Well, you're very scary, Kitten says. Yes, I am. Dog is pleased. Do you want to play? No time, Kitten says. I'm hunting a mouse. But I have a ball, says Dog. But I want the mouse. Ooh, a mousey and a kitty. Want a berry? Asks a girl. Kitten doesn't care for berries. Berries aren't for cats. But now his stomach is grumbling and the mouse is on the move. Does Kitten follow? Of course he does. Have you seen a mouse? Kitten asks. A bird croaks, we've seen many things. But what about the mouse? It may have passed by. The bird laughs. Yours to find. Here it rains food. Kitten nibbles. It's flat and dry. Bird squawks, put it back, put it back. Crash, there goes the mouse. Kitten pounces. No mouse here. Kitten is confused. Are you stuck? Kitten asks. The tortoise blinks. We're all bound by something. Kitten nips the string. Now you're not. Arigato. The tortoise nods. Thank you. Tortoise slips into a rip and Kitten is alone. He is very alone. No mouse, no food, and worst of all, Kitten knows something new. He is lost. Thunder rumbles. Kitten runs, the mouse forgotten. Meow, he cries. A friendly voice calls, are you lost, little one? Kitten jumps. This man's robe feels soft under Kitten's paws. Kitten, senti. His laugh is a purr. Don't you know where home is? Listen, you can hear it. Kitten listens. Squint, critch, tink, which is the sound of a cat food can opening. Dinner time. Just like that, Kitten knows exactly where home is. He coils up tight and leaps. Back, back, back he goes. But he doesn't land at home. Murr? The people cheer. It's the cat who rid us of rats. They open a slim, dusty door. Does Kitten go through it? Of course he does. And like a whisper of wind, Kitten is home, back in the shadow-filled room. Is Kitten happy? Yes, of course he is. So that's the end of the story. And then we have 2 pages here of how I actually created some of the pieces of art. My editor, Virginia Duncan at Green Willow, said that if we didn't actually talk about the making of the art, people would kind of assume that it probably was just Photoshop. My character Photoshopped into pieces of art. And then we also have 2 pages talking about the actual pieces of art that I selected on one of my trips to the Met. So people can see the sort of the inspiration pieces and then what they turned into as Kitten talks to them. Now, as I said, all the pieces in this book were created by hand. And for me, one of the really exciting things was to try to see if I could actually make them in the original materials. And a lot of these are techniques that I've done before, whether in high school, college, or after. But it was a real challenge sometimes to try to make things that looked almost like near forgeries. So this is the original piece at the Met for the stained glass. And okay, I don't know what that is. Excuse me for 1 second. Okay, piece of stained glass. And then this is the drawing, or called a cartoon in stained glass world, that I made to figure out what colors the glass was going to be and where the lines would be. I cut out individual pieces of colored glass. I had to learn how to paint them and fire them. So I bought a small craft kiln, and this is a half a dozen pieces about to get fired. This is pieces after the glass has been fired and the paint is permanently in the surface, sort of assembling all the pieces together, my last chance to fit everything before it gets soldered. And then there's the process of actually soldering the pieces together. And there you end up with the illustration for the book. So that is the story. If we could stop the share for a second. For me, one of the things about doing this book is I visit a lot of elementary schools and talk with kids who just don't have confidence that they can ever really make anything. And as a kid, I always wanted to make things that felt real. And I never thought I could. And so for me, in some ways, I'm hoping that this story will get other kids, some who may not have really spent much time in a museum or love making things but never think they'll actually be good at them as a grown-up, to realize that it's all about learning. It's a learned skill. And also my hope is that kids may be exposed to kinds of art that they'd never seen before. So my timer went off. I'm going to stop right there, but that is the first reading of Catnap.
Thank you so much, Brian. And we are honored to be the audience for the first official reading of Catnap. And it was so cool to see your process and see how much dedication went into this book. So thank you so much for sharing. So we will move on to some more picture books on this list. Okay, so I am so excited to talk about this. The legendary Stephen King brings to life beautiful opera set and costume design illustrations by Maurice Sendak, the Caldecott Medal winning creator of Where the Wild Things Are, in this thrilling must-have reimagining of the Brothers Grimm fairy tale Hansel and Gretel. That's about all I can say right now, but definitely, keep an eye out for more information on this title that comes out in September. Next, please. Okay, so both of these properties, Fancy Nancy and Pete the Cat, are longstanding favorites in classrooms and libraries. So make sure you add the newest Fancy Nancy, Besties for Eternity, which in 2025 is the 20th anniversary of our fanciest friend, if you can believe it, and Pete the Cat's cool new ride to your shelves, both out in September. Next, please. All right, so this is a fun winter-themed new series from Caldecott honoree Corey R. Tabor with Wally Mammoth. This is the first in a 4-book series, and as a 3-time Geisel winner and a 2025 Geisel honoree, Corey Tabor really has established himself as a leading creator for emerging readers, and Wally is no different. So we are excited about this one. Next, please. All right, so you can see some of the art there. Next. Okay, so next we have If You Make a Call on a Banana Phone. I'm so excited about this one. Actually, I'm so sorry. My phone keeps ringing and I have to take this. Hello? Hey, yeah, I'm doing the Librarian preview right now. I just got to If You Make a Call on a Banana Phone. Yes, by the amazing new author Gideon Starer and illustrated by Emily Hughes. Right, it's the super fun, funny one. It's imaginative, feels super classic with the art, and it's laugh out loud funny text. Yes, exactly. It also highlights the importance of connection with those who might be different from you. So it's great for social emotional learning. Yep, it's on sale in September. So it would be really great for a back to school story time. You're so sorry. Can you hear me? Sorry, the reception in my building is bananas. Okay, well, I hope to see you at ALA, but I got to get back to this. Okay, all right, bye-bye. So sorry about that. I think we can move on to the next one. All right, this is The Snowball Fight, another great winter-themed book from New York Times best-selling creators Beth Berry and Tom Lichtenheld in an ode to a snowy day. Next slide, so you can see some of the art there. And next slide, please. All right, Gracie's Corner. With over 2 billion views on YouTube, I'm sure you or your patrons are familiar with the catchy songs and videos from Gracie's Corner, and we are thrilled to introduce Gracie and her family into the book world. This first book is inspired by the incredibly catchy Good Morning song, so it'll pair well for story time if you want to add the song, but we're really excited about this. Next slide, please. All right, Books on Bikes. This is inspired by the book bike programs popping up nationally, and it follows Leah as she shares the joy of reading and writing with her community. And this is also available fully in Spanish. Next slide, please. All right, so we have some really amazing nature-themed books on this list, all from incredibly amazing creators. First, we have the first picture book from the best-selling author of Braiding Sweetgrass, Robin Wall Kimmerer, with Bud Finds Her Gift, which is a loving intergenerational story about finding gratitude and our place in the natural world. We also have The True and Lucky Life of a Turtle. This is the best-selling and Cybert Honor-winning creators of the Book of Turtles, and they bring us the true story of a snapping turtle's extraordinary journey and the amazing conservationists who helped give him a second chance. This feel-good, gorgeously illustrated story about beating the odds is complete with inspiring back matter and photos. And then finally, we have Dear Acorn, Love Oak. This is told through poetic letters and this inventive collaboration from Newbery Honor winner Joyce Sidman and 2-time Caldecott Honor winning artist Melissa Sweet. And it reveals the everyday conversations between big and little objects in our ecosystem. It's so, so sweet. Next slide, please. Some really amazing picture book debuts. So first, acclaimed author Jen Reese's picture book debut, 7 Ways Through the Woods, invites readers on a fantastical journey through the woods with sumptuous illustrations from rising star Devin L. Kurtz. It's a celebration of curiosity, imagination, and wonder for fans of Night Owl, Endlessly Ever After, and Journey. We also have The Golden Hoops. In a first-of-its-kind debut, author and The Bump executive Jen Hayes Lee takes readers on a magical journey as Janie searches for her missing hoop earring. A perfect pick for fans of The Queen of Kindergarten, Hair Love, and other upbeat Black Joy picture books. And then finally on this slide, we have The Day Leap Sword, indie bestselling author of Dogs on the Trail and Small Game, social media personality, and dog sledder, Blair Braverman's debut picture book. This is about an adorable sled dog who discovers the power of teamwork, self-acceptance, and never giving up, based on Blair's real-life team of sled dogs. Next slide, please. And then finally, I just want to close out with the exciting news that the beloved classic Charlotte's Web is now available as a board book with charming art that is so reminiscent of the original from artist Anait Sermidzian. So we're very excited to bring Charlotte to the youngest readers. As a reminder, most of these picture books are available as full PDFs on Edelweiss if you'd like to read the full texts. But now we will move on to middle grade. So I'm so excited to introduce Karina Yan Glaser. Karina Yan Glaser is the author of the New York Times bestselling Vanderbeekers series and the standalone novel A Duet for Home, which received 3-starred reviews and has been nominated for more than a dozen state awards. In her new book and first foray into historical fiction, Karina follows not one but 2 historical timelines, following Han Yu, a boy living in 731 China, and LULI, a girl living in 1931 New York. And they are each on a compelling journey and will equally capture the hearts of readers. We are thrilled to have her here to take us through these journeys. So now here's Karina Yan Glaser.
Hi, everyone. I'm so pleased to be here. And I just loved listening to all the picture books. I love picture books. It's probably one of my favorite things to read. And listening to Brian was incredible. So I'm very honored to be here. And yes, I am the author of a series called The Vanderbeekers, which is a 7-book series, and A Duet for Home. And both of these books are contemporary books. They're books that I created because they reflected a lot of my own life, and it just was like instant inspiration from my own life. And as I was thinking about what to do for the book following the Vanderbeekers after that concluded, I really wanted to dive into historical fiction because that is the genre that I go to read first all the time. I love historical fiction. And I just started thinking about, what time period I wanted to do. And so that all ended up with this book, The 9 Moons of Hanyu and LULI, and it follows 2 kids, one living in 1931 in Chinatown, New York City, and one living in ancient China, so Tang Dynasty China, 731. And a lot of people ask me, like, how did that happen? Like, how did this come to be? And I think it first started with my love of Chinatown. So I grew up in Los Angeles, very close to a neighborhood that, my parents would bring me to all the time. We would grocery shop there, we would eat there. And when I moved to New York City for college, I instantly felt a little overwhelmed by New York City, having grown up in more of a suburban area. And I remember going to the college, when they have those orientations, and there was one group going down to Chinatown. So I signed up for that, and I went with the group down to Chinatown, and we ate dim sum, which was sort of my favorite food growing up. And I just loved the Chinatown in New York City. I was just so amazed by it, and it was so familiar to me. The dialects that they spoke was familiar to me. That's, Cantonese is what I heard growing up with my parents speaking it. So I just love the area. So when I started thinking about historical fiction, I really wanted to look into Chinatown. And so when I originally pitched the book, I wanted to do 1930s New York City. I came up with my whole story, but as I was researching food and I was researching dim sum, I saw that there was a really strong connection to Silk Road's time. So then, as all of you have probably done, I went down this rabbit hole of researching dim sum and then the Silk Roads. And I just sort of started reading everything I could get my hands on. So Chinatown is not really well documented in that area because it was very small. It's a really small area, and it was a very insular area. So I went to books that were about the Lower East Side. So I grabbed all these books and I read them cover to cover and learned all about the Lower East Side. But then I needed to learn more about Chinatown. So because there wasn't really that much documented about it, I had to get photos. So I would go on to eBay and just look on eBay to see if there's anything like postcards, because postcards were a really big thing with restaurants. They would hand out postcards to sort of advertise their foods. So I was looking through books like this and looking through all these historical photos to sort of bring to life the story that I wanted to tell. So there's all these, I love these types of books. This really old book that I got for like $2 at a garage sale. So looking at all these storefronts, looking at how people dressed and the decorations there. And so that was sort of how I got into the Chinatown section. And then I had to research Tang Dynasty China, which I got like a tiny overview when I was in college because I studied Asian cultures in college and that was one of my majors. So I had a little idea, but I had forgotten a lot of it. And so I went back to some of my old textbooks and started looking at that. And I started looking at the dynasties because there were quite a lot of them and I didn't remember any of them. And so I was getting books like this, which is actually a graphic novel about the Tang dynasties and imperial China. So that actually helped a lot. And then I read this long book, The Silk Roads, which if you look how long it is. So I was trying to figure out like what was going on with the Silk Roads and all the trade that was happening. So that was something I looked at too. The Met had done, speaking of the Met and Brian's wonderful book, the Met had done an exhibit about art along the Silk Road. So I got to look at some of the beautiful things that were found along the Silk Roads. And there's a huge art connection in the book. So that was really helpful too. And then because I was researching the Depression era in Chinatown, I had to read books about the Great Depression, and then I found this book about New York City and the Great Depression, and then I had to research subways, so I got this book, which I had actually read in college, and I reread it again because the subways had changed so much around that time that I was looking at, so I had to make sure that the subways were accurate, and then I ended up not even using subways in my book, which is often what happens, I think, with historical novels, is you do all this research and you use like 5% of what you learned. So food was a huge thing in the book, so I looked at this, and there are a lot of shops and restaurants now in New York City that are using sort of ancient traditions to make food. So I got this cookbook, so all this stuff. And my husband was seeing all these books come in and me just like reading all of them. And he was getting very concerned because we have a very small apartment. But finally, the really helpful books that I found for Tang Dynasty was this book, because it talks about how people lived during that time. And so Chang'an, which is the city that I talk about in the book, and that's where my protagonist is from. He lives in Chang'an, which is a city so much like New York City, and there's a grid system, there's neighborhoods, and I was really struck by how similar it was. So that's sort of how I came about having those two time periods, and it was really exciting to have two kids who have no relationship to each other, but they end up being very connected even though they don't even know the other person exists. And it made me think a lot about how, like me sitting here in New York City, I was the first one in my entire family to be born in America. And I feel very honored and blessed to have the opportunities that I have to live here and to grow up here and have an education here. And I think about sort of the stories and the threads that, you know, are thousands of years in my history of people living and working in China, and who knows, like maybe there was a writer in my history and I just will never know. And so that's what I was trying to pull at with this book, The 9 Moons of Hanyu and LULI. And there is a tiny little surprise in this book, and that is because in Tang Dynasty China, that was like a time of great art and beauty and poetry. And so I was reading a lot of poetry set in that time period. And when I was writing this book, I sort of came about this poet named Du Fu. And he just sort of like, as I was writing, he sort of just like appeared in my book. And so he's got a little cameo. So all the the characters are fictional except for him, which I sort of imagine him meeting my protagonist along the roads and the Silk Roads. And it was just so fun. And I was able to get permissions for us to use the poetry. So his actual poetry is in the book, which is so exciting. And I just had a really great time writing this book. And I hope you'll pick it up, and I hope you'll let me know what you think if you get a chance to read it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karina. I absolutely adore the time. My name is Elise Damasco, and I'm the marketing coordinator. Oh, we lost my audio. Can you hear me now? Okay. My name is Elise Damasco, and I'm the marketing coordinator on the school and library team, and I'm very excited to share our upcoming middle grade titles. Next slide, please. All right, so I know this is about to make you feel like time is moving so fast, but yes, this year is the 10th anniversary of the beloved graphic novel Nimona, and that's certainly a very exciting milestone to celebrate, and what's equally exciting is that N.D. Stevenson has more wickedly funny and deeply emotional middle grade on the way for us. Scarlet Morning is the first in an illustrated novel duology following two orphans who leave the only home they've ever known to sail with an eccentric crew of pirates. Next slide, please. Next, Boston Globe Horn Book Award winning author Brandy Colbert gives The Parent Trap a fresh update in Let's Get Together. This is the story of two girls who might meet by chance, only to discover that they are actually identical twins. This middle grade read is heartfelt and nuanced as it redefines and reunites family, and it's already off to a really great start with starred reviews from Kirkus and Publishers Weekly. Next slide, please. So we have all been waiting on the edge of our seats for the next Nick Blake book, and the time has almost come. Angie Thomas is here with book 2, The Book of Anansi. After already facing many obstacles, Nick then encounters a cult of mysterious manifestors who threaten to reveal the truth about her, unless Nick delivers to them a legendary artifact, the Book of Anansi. This fantasy adventure is boldly original and steeped in Black history and folklore. Next slide, please. So the modern middle grade classic Tangerine first came out in 1997, and now almost 30 years later, we're excited to share the long-awaited follow-up novel Goalkeeper. This is about Paul Fisher, who is eager to leave his rich kid private school and get back to Tangerine Middle, where he found acceptance as the goalkeeper of the War Eagles. But first, he must survive the summer at home, where a new crisis unfolds, and Paul must testify against one of the War Eagles in a criminal case. Using the lessons he learned in school about truth versus loyalty and justice versus mercy, Paul fights an unjust legal system while also learning to stay true to himself and his teammates. Next slide, please. So we have some thrilling middle grade reads here. Up first from Margaret Peterson Haddix, we have a suspenseful duology opener about a girl whose first phone connects her to a network of time travelers who want to change the world. Moonleapers has all the things we've loved in other Margaret Peterson Haddix books, including a high-stakes mystery, a daring plot, and of course, a relatable main character. It's perfect for fans of the Mysterious Benedict Society and also City Spies. And then for readers looking for a thrilling read that's more on the scary side, we have The House Next Door, which is by celebrated co-founder of We Need Diverse Books and Apollo honoree Ellen O. This spooky story is in the vein of Spirit Hunters about hero Rory, who must save his new neighbors from a creepy house filled with angry spirits. Next slide, please. Up next, we have two slice of life novels that encourage empathy, growth, and introspection by capturing realistic life experiences and challenges. So the first one on the slide, as we all know, everything tends to change in middle school, and that is exactly what Barry Parker Doesn't Catch Crushes is about. With her mom's new boyfriend, her best friend's new crush, and her dad's interest in her gym teacher, Barry vows to never catch a crush because all of these crushes are crushing the life out of Barry. Why did things have to change? But spoiler, even though Barry resists any changes at first, this novel is about being open to new things and new people. And then second, in Words Apart, sisters Olive and Maddie used to be inseparable, but with their dad acting suspiciously after moving away from them, their mom hovering over them about grades, and their own relationship fracturing, the sisters learn that sometimes letting someone go is the best way to show you love them. This hybrid novel intertwines poetry, wordplay, comics, and also offers an authentic representation of dyslexia. Next slide, please. So for decades now, Flat Stanley has been an iconic character that everyone knows and loves, and now we are keeping that love for Flat Stanley going in graphic novel format. Graphic novel adaptations are a great way to introduce new readers to modern classics, engage your reluctant readers, and also differentiate your lesson plans. And then second, we also have another exciting graphic novel adaptation, which is the third Warriors graphic novel. For those who are longtime fans and also readers who are just starting to dip their paws into the extensive Warriors world, these graphic novels are fun, fast reads full of adventure and, of course, cats. And here are some interiors for both of those graphic novels. Next slide, please. So you've probably heard of the Elf on the Shelf phenomenon during the holiday season, and now the creator of that iconic elf is bringing us an enchanting middle grade novel. The Rise of Nicholas the Noble is an epic holiday adventure that will pull in your reluctant readers as they meet gnomes, ice trolls, and shape-shifting villains. And then some other books for reluctant readers. We have The First Cat in Space. This is the fourth book in the series. And these graphic novels are easy crowd pleasers, even for students who aren't yet big fans of reading. So if you get your readers hooked on the first book, we're on book number 4, so there's plenty of books to go around, and we promise your readers will be giggling the whole time. And then lastly, for all of your readers looking for captivating sports books, former Atlanta Falcons NFL player Tim Green's Rocket Arm is our last middle grade book for today. This novel follows a football player named Zeno with big dreams whose life changes forever when he attends an athletic boarding school. And just to add a little bit more excitement for your reluctant readers, there's a bit of a mystery subplot to add a little bit more intrigue. And then don't forget, all of these books are available on Edelweiss and NetGalley. And then I'll hand it back to Mimi to introduce Tiffany D. Jackson.
Thanks so much, Elise. We have such a stellar middle grade list, and I'm also excited to talk about teen as well. So, the 2025 Margaret A. Edwards Award winner Tiffany D. Jackson is back and better than ever doing what she does best, getting our hearts racing and spooking the bejesus out of us readers. In The Scammer, the acclaimed writer of thrillers and horror rips a gripping story from the headlines and spins what happens when charm and charisma prey on vulnerable young people on their own for the first time in college. I absolutely could not put this book down, and I don't want to give too much away about this book, but it is sure to have a cult following soon. So I will hand it over to the brilliant Tiffany D. Jackson.
Hi. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I'm sorry. That is like my hair is sticking out. Postpartum shedding is crazy. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk about The Scammer. This is really truly my first real time talking about The Scammer, and this is my first thriller in about 5 years, I believe. So I'm really excited to introduce this story because it is very near and dear to my heart. As some of you may know, most of my books are loosely inspired by real cases, ripped from the headlines and such and such. And this story, of course, is no different. This is about a girl named Jordan who is finally up from under her parents' thumbs to move to college and start school at a HBCU, which stands for Historically Black and College and University. And she makes new friends with her instant friends with her roommates, and she's incredibly excited for this new journey until one of the roommates' brother, who's recently been released from prison, moves into the dorm with the girls. And at first, he seems very charming and sweet, but then Jordan believes that some of his actions and words have a more sinister nature at bay. And he starts to actually grow quite a following of other students who want to actually hear from him. But Jordan senses something is really up, and when one of Jordan's roommates goes missing, she must enlist help from the lone white student on the college campus to uncover the mystery before she becomes a victim or another victim of the brothers' demise. So that is actually what the scammer is about. Next slide, please. So, like I said, usually my stories are loosely inspired by real cases, and I typically don't talk about the cases because, I feel like that always kind of spoils the book. But this is actually different because this was inspired by an article I read back in 2019 called "The Stolen Kids of Sarah Lawrence." Now, Sarah Lawrence College was a college that was under a lot of scrutiny after it was found out that a cult was started in a student dorm by the daughter's father who happened to move in, and his name was Larry Ray. This, of course, has been updated over the years. There's been several podcasts, also a Hulu series that talks a lot about this case. And I really thought it was interesting when I first read the article back in 2019 because I didn't know much about cults in general. But then once reading the article and kind of thinking about, well, how do kids fall for something like this? And specifically, I do call them kids because at the end of the day, these are brand new spanking freshmen. They are finally just out of high school. They're away from their family and friends and everything they know. And now we just plop them into a school in an entirely different city and expect everything to go exactly and accordingly to plan. And I thought it was very interesting because once I did look at the specifics of this particular case, I was like, well, I can almost understand how something like this could happen. But from first glance, I can understand why some other people wouldn't understand how this could happen. And when I thought about in terms of my body of work and thinking about where I wanted my voice and stuff to go, I decided that I wanted to touch upon college because, like I said, a lot of us are leaving home for the first time and we are incredibly vulnerable. And at the end of the day, though they are legally adults at 18, they are still very much kids. And a lot of people, specifically predators, understand that and know that and really kind of prey upon their vulnerabilities, specifically in a college campus. Um, I didn't know much about, like I said, I didn't really know much about cults when I kind of dived into it. I mean, of course, we know like the staples, the Jim Jones, the Manson family, Heaven's Gate, but I never really hear a lot about Black cults. And when I finally dived into it, I realized I actually knew someone who was in a specific cult. I actually went to high school with her, and she ended up going to an HBCU. And I realized later on, because we are no longer in touch, it was really strange for me to watch her sort of devolve into this because we both went to pretty affluent high schools in Westchester County, New York. Then we went off to HBCUs. She was also in Jack and Jill with me. She was heavily involved in community service, etc. And I was just very fascinated by the fact that she was able to be somewhat swindled and scammed into believing into the Nubian Nation, which was Dwight York's cult. And he goes by several different names, and he is, of course, arrested and in jail for hopefully the rest of his life. But I really thought it was important in today's society, especially with the spread of information, misinformation, and kids sort of identifying the signs of something like this. So I sort of bumped up and went to college, which was really a fun experience. Next slide. But I too went to an HBCU. So one picture you see, that is me my freshman year at Howard University. Uh, that actually isn't my room. That was my friend's room, which was right next door. But I did have a group of friends that we were very close with, close and still close to this day. They're all my daughter's aunties. And we all kind of experienced like several situations where people were trying to swindle and scam us. Fortunately, we all very much had each other's backs. We all kind of had a skepticism eye. I mean, I think it also was the fact that we all most of us grew up in New York or New Jersey, so we already are just like, suspicious of everybody. But that was one of the reasons. But we saw a lot of people kind of fall to prey, fall to pimps, especially around that time, because they were always sort of circling, kind of preying upon girls and men and boys too around this time. And I thought it was very interesting how this could all play. So the book actually takes place at a HBCU, a made up HBCU, because I was trying to keep it, PC, I guess. But I was really excited to kind of go back and revisit my time at a college campus. Jordan actually gets a chance to become like involved in student government. You really learn about some of the minutia and sort of just the privileges of going to an HBCU. So this was really exciting for me and to get a chance to, kind of explore that and go back to my college days, because I feel like we're all at some point trying to relive college. But my hope is that people, I mean, specifically kids, could really take away the signs and realize the way to identify a scammer in this story. Of course, this story has somewhat of a plot twist in it. I'm not even gonna lie anymore because I already see it online that people are talking about and kind of ruining the ending. But I do think that for your students, it's a really great opportunity to sort of like, put this book in their hands so they have an idea of what to expect somewhat in high school. I mean, I'm sorry, in college, once they start going away and really kind of, sorry, what to expect in college and really sort of absorb some of the lessons from this book, which is always my mission, is to put the tools in students' hands and hopefully they know how to use them. So and the other photo is actually me last year. That was my 25th anniversary in front of my specific dorm, which was the Howard University Plaza Towers West. So thank you so much. Hopefully I explained enough about the book, but if you have any questions, yeah, you know where to reach me.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited for this book to be out in the world because I need to make all of my friends read it so that I can talk about it with them because I've been waiting to talk to people about this book for too long. My name is Christina. I'm an assistant manager on the team, and we're going to dive into some more teen reads, starting off with Golden Boy's Guide to Bipolar. Sonora's debut, Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School, was a National Book Award finalist, a Lambda Award winner, and one of my personal favorites. And now they're back with a companion novel following Selena's brother as he navigates his mental health journey. Caesar is ready to get his life together and win back his ex-boyfriend, but a manic episode threatens to derail it all. Told with Sonora's signature vulnerability, this book is sure to hit you right in the feels. Next slide, please. Exquisite Things is Abdi Nazimian at his absolute best, crafting a queer romance for the ages. Graham feels like he was born in the wrong time. 1895 London doesn't allow him to live as his authentic self. So when he's offered the chance to live in a time and place where he can be truly happy, he leaps at the chance. 1920s Boston feels similarly constraining to Oliver until he discovers a secret queer community at Harvard and a mysterious boy who changes his life forever. Next slide. In All the Way Around the Sun, Stella's family has been reeling since the unexpected death of her brother a year earlier. Now, her parents are sending her on a college visit road trip with her estranged childhood friend, throwing her life even more into turmoil. On the trip, she's reminded of all the ways in which she is lost, but also finds herself being pulled into her friend Alan's orbit. Achingly romantic, this road trip story is a great choice for those about to embark on their own journeys of self-discovery and college admissions. Next slide. Mindy McGinnis brings us another dark contemporary novel sure to keep teens turning the pages. Three girls' lives are intertwined through a secret sex education class until they are trapped in an inescapable situation that leaves one of them dead. This novel explores emotional abuse and the dark side of social media and will stick with readers long after the book is closed. Next slide. And for those readers who want to escape all of the dark social media into a fantasy world, we have some great new series and standalones. Thorn Season, the read on this one really caught me off guard in the best possible way. I thought I was just gonna, read a little bit and preview it. Next thing you know, I was up until midnight trying to finish it. This debut fantasy from Kira Azar combines the romance of the selection with the amazing world building, hidden magic, and a web of intrigue and betrayal. The book is cinematic and immersive and sure to be a hit with your teen readers and beyond. And I Killed the King, Rebecca Mix and Andrea Hanna combine beasts, murder, and magic. Oh my. What else could you ask for from this locked room whodunit? Avondale and Estelia have been at war for over a decade, but are celebrating peace with a masquerade. The king summons an unlikely group to his chambers, but before he can reveal why he's gathered them, the castle goes dark and the king winds up dead. This is the first in a duology. Gilded and Vengeance is a standalone fantasy. The night of the society ball was supposed to be the first day of Emmy Valilo's life of magic. Instead, she watches her father's murder as she's dragged away and locked in a cell for 2 years. By the time she's rescued by Jack Fontaine, a golden boy of the society, she's ready for revenge. Hidden identities, lavish balls, and an infuriating attraction come together for a satisfying standalone fantasy set against the Gilded Age of New York City. Next slide. I probably don't need to tell you too much about the first one on this slide. I've been very impatiently waiting for this next installment in Tahira Mafi's This Woven Kingdom series, and now at long last, the wedding of Eliza, the Jinn Queen, and Cyrus, the ruler of Toulon, has arrived. And with it comes Cyrus's sworn death. But when new secrets are revealed, nothing will be the same. And another sequel is the one to Songlight. If you haven't read Songlight, definitely do that. It's amazing. Songlight is either your greatest power or your greatest curse. This book finds each character fighting their own battle for survival, united by their desire for peace. Like I said, if you missed out on the first book of this trilogy, you'll definitely want to grab it now. We have an updated cover that you can see here that'll be on the paperback. Author Moira Buffini is a screenwriter and a playwright, and it really shows in the highly cinematic and evocative writing, rich world building that really sets this in a space of its own within the dystopian genre. Next slide, please. Walter Dean Myers is a name that is hopefully familiar to all of you, I'm sure. We're going to be reissuing some of these classics with new covers to appeal to new readers. And next slide. We also have a graphic novel adaptation of Myers' memoir, Bad Boy. The author recounts his childhood as a troublemaker in Harlem. Growing up in the 1940s and 50s, where running into Langston Hughes on the street was a normal occurrence. This adaptation is gripping, funny, and unforgettable, and it's a great way to introduce a new generation to one of the strongest voices in children's and young adult literature. Next slide. Here we have some interiors. Next slide. Red as royal blood, Ruby has never found a puzzle she couldn't solve. Even though she's destined to spend the rest of her life as a servant to the royal family, her mind itches for a true challenge. But no puzzle could prepare her for the king's decision to name Ruby as the next heir to the throne just before his death. This paperback original thriller is perfect for fans of the inheritance games. And Silenced Voices is a historical graphic novel by Eisner-nominated creator Pablo Leon, and it tells the intergenerational tale of a mother who lived through the Guatemalan Civil War and her sons growing up in Maryland, oblivious to what their mother has endured. Slowly, Clara unburies her past and opens up to her sons about their family history. And next slide. And finally, you may have heard us speak on past previews about our Shake Up Your Celebrations campaign, which highlights books about holidays that are not usually focused on in literature. And we're excited to have a great teen title to add to this list. From Lunar New Year to Solstice, the stories in this anthology show us there isn't just one way to experience a holiday. And that is all for our teen books. I'm going to turn things back over to Mimi and our Booklist team to wrap things up.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Christina. Another fantastic teen list, which I'm hoping all of you are adding to your buy lists now. But we looks like we have a little bit of time, so I wanted to invite our authors back on and ask them a couple questions from the audience. So given all of the research that you did for your books, what was the most surprising thing you learned or that you found to be the most challenging in translating your research and ideas into the text? Let's start with Brian.
Well, I think one of the things that was the most surprising for me was that I was actually able to create pieces that looked a lot like the pieces in the book. I mean, that in the museum, and that was the challenge, was trying to create near forgeries. And I guess for me, the exciting thing is if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's not magical talent, it's about learned skills. And that's something that I really try to encourage kids with when I'm visiting schools, is that you can do things. And again, I don't think I'm special. I think if I can do it, anybody can.
Well, Brian, we think you're pretty special, but that's
Well, you're
wonderful.
very kind.
Karina, Karina, what about you?
I second that about Brian. I think he's very special.
Oh,
For the research, I mean, one thing that I was surprised by is just how much work goes into historical. Since I'd only written contemporary before, I love reading historical. I just felt like, oh, I can like get this done. But I think that because when you write something and you're always second guessing like what is actually historically accurate, you can never really get into a flow of writing. So I was like constantly taking notes, constantly like going to the library, doing more research. I even like had a new like notebook that I like put all these tabs on so I could make sure like everything was correct. I'm sure I made mistakes, but I just felt like I really wanted to do my best. And one of the things that happened when I was doing the research was I really love this one street in Chinatown. It's like a curvy street, and there's like a lot of like original buildings on that street. So I was like, yes, this is where I'm going to set my protagonist in Chinatown. That's the street. And I started writing the whole book, and then I went back and I was like looking at that street again and doing some research on the street. And apparently during that time, it was like a really dangerous street. Like it was so dangerous that they called it Murder Alley, and it was like the highest per capita murder rate in America during that time. And I just have like my like little 11-year-old protagonist just like walking around by herself on that street. So I had to change the street, but it was like little things like that where you just start like moving ahead with something, and then something in your research changes, and you're like, oh wait, I can't have that happen there anymore. So you have to sort of rework everything. So it was like fun, but also a challenge.
So glad LULI didn't end up in Murder Alley. But thanks, Karina. Tiffany, what about you?
Yeah, I typically do a lot of research for all my books, especially since they're kind of loosely inspired by real cases. And one of the best things that kind of happened, lately is, in my previous books, I was really in the trenches, going to places and being more of like a method author in a sense. But this is the first book that there were so many, like, so much information readily available that I didn't really have to leave my house, which was the first time that's happened in any of my books. Like there was podcasts, and a lot of networks are now putting all their research and case logs like on their website. So that was like one of the best things for me. And I was like, oh, thank you. Like this is wonderful. But in order to make the cult as believable as possible, I had to like research a lot of conspiracy theories. And I typically stay away from those. So the more I was reading it, the more that I was like, what? And then I would find like YouTube videos of men or women kind of like, explaining their theories. Like there's a theory that, Black women aren't supposed to have their periods. And I was like, where did we get this from? And it was just wild kind of going down and listening to their rhetoric and listening to their reasoning and thinking to myself like I can when you have so much rhetoric and reasoning, when you have like books and like books that were written by other people that are like posturing as experts or posturing as doctors, you really have to filter through all the nonsense to kind of understand like who are these people getting their knowledge from. And so that was really sort of eye-opening for me in terms of like the type of research that I had to do, where I had to make like present this conspiracy theory like chemtrails. Basically that they have this idea that, you know, there's poison being like sprayed through the sky in specific, like, you know, areas where Black people usually are. And I had to like kind of like drill it down to be like, well, how did they get there? And that was more like, you know, it was almost like writing a fantasy. And that's what made it really like unfortunate. And also it made me really sad because I can understand why these people are got to that conclusion and why they're so like, you know, paranoid in a sense. So it just made me sad specifically for my community, who, you know, this was really like targeting. So that was really like a big part of my research journey through writing this book.
That's amazing. Almost a study in empathy and kind of, I'm glad you made it out the other side.
Yeah, you know, I survived. Karina, I want to know what
Yeah.
street, I want to know what street this is in Chinatown. I'm sorry, I have to know.
Oh, the street? Oh, yeah, I'll text you.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks to all three of you for joining us today. I know we are all so excited about all of your books. Thank you to all of the wonderful librarians and audience members that have joined us as well to hear about these books and hear from our authors. That is all from us. Please take a look at the Edelweiss catalog to see these and more titles from the season. And as I mentioned earlier, e-galleys of most everything you heard about today will be available on both Edelweiss and NetGalley, so whichever you prefer. If you have any further questions, my info is on the screen. Please feel free to reach out. Again, we hope to see many of you at ALA. We'll be at booth 605, so swing on by. Actually, all three of these authors will be at ALA, so hopefully you can catch them there as well. If you have any questions, again, reach out. But thank you so much for joining us, and thanks to Booklist.
Thank you so much, Mimi. And thank you, Brian, Karina, and Tiffany, and the entire Harper Stacks team. It was such a wonderful preview. I'm so glad to hear from all of you. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's video recording, title list, slide presentation, and a certificate of completion. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones like those you see here. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. One more huge thank you to our special guests and to our sponsor, HarperCollins Children's Books. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.